Bonjour à toutes, bonjour à tous. Je suis très heureuse également d'être là et de voir cette salle bien pleine. Quelques mots au sujet du Lab Femmes de Cinéma, dans le cadre duquel cette rencontre est organisée donc au Festival des Arcs. Le Lab est un think tank qui travaille sur la place des femmes dans le cinéma. Nous organisons des ateliers, nous produisons une étude sur la place des réalisatrices qui nous montre que nous sommes toujours autour de 25% seulement de femmes cinéastes en Europe. Et nous organisons en fait des masterclass ainsi qu'un podcast pour mettre en avant des femmes de cinéma, leur tendre le micro et les entendre parler de leurs films, de leur carrière, de ce qui compte pour elles et de ce qu'elles ont envie de faire passer dans leur création. Donc c'est un immense honneur, ça vraiment on le dit, on le redit, d'accueillir aujourd'hui deux artistes pour cette rencontre exceptionnelle. Alors c'est vrai que souvent on fait des rencontres qui sont des masterclass. Aujourd'hui c'est une rencontre entre deux artistes d'exception. Donc ces deux femmes qui sont à la fois extrêmement différentes et si proches dans leur quête artistique partagent un talent assez unique pour donner vie à des personnages complexes et inoubliables. Leur carrière est marquée par des choix audacieux, une volonté de sortir des sentiers battus et une capacité à transcender les frontières, qu'elles soient géographiques, culturelles ou narratives. Nous avons l'opportunité unique de les voir dialoguer, de plonger dans leur processus créatif, d'explorer leurs choix artistiques et leur vision du cinéma. À travers leurs échanges, nous espérons découvrir ce qui les inspire, ce qui les anime et comment elles abordent leur métier dans un monde cinématographique qui est en constante évolution. Le processus de cet échange sera très singulier, comme je vous le disais, car elles ont toutes les deux émis le souhait d'une conversation directe avec le moins de modération possible. Donc Léolo et moi posons des questions quand vraiment on ne pourra pas s'empêcher de le faire. Mais globalement, ce sera une conversation qui sera directe entre nos deux invités. Voilà, donc je tiens à vous remercier d'être là. C'est un grand honneur. Je remercie également Léolo. Je remercie toutes les personnes grâce auxquelles on a organisé cette rencontre. Lise Perrotet en particulier qui s'est beaucoup investie dedans. Et puis maintenant, c'est parti. Léolo, je vais peut-être te laisser commencer par présenter Noomi et son parcours. Merci beaucoup.
Alors merci. Noomi, vous naissez en Suède et avez grandi entre la Scandinavie et l'Islande, dans un cadre où l'art et l'imaginaire visuel semblent déjà préfigurer votre parcours. À seulement 7 ans, vous apparaissez pour la première fois à l'écran dans, je vais essayer de le dire, c'est un titre islandais, Iskuga Ravnskins. Ça va, le nom du film, en 1988, une entrée précoce dans le monde du cinéma qui annonce une carrière remarquable. Et ensuite, c'est avec Millennium en 2009, sous la direction de Nils Arden Oplev, que vous obtenez une reconnaissance internationale en incarnant Lisbeth Salander, personnage devenu emblématique que l'on connaît tous. Depuis, vous avez enrichi une filmographie de plus de 50 œuvres, explorant des univers variés et collaborant avec des cinéastes de renom. Vous avez joué dans Sherlock Holmes, Jeu d'ombre de Guy Ritchie en 2012, Prometheus de Ridley Scott, Passion de Brian De Palma ou encore The Drop de Michael R. Roskam. Et plus récemment, votre rôle dans Lamb de Vladimir Johansson, film d'ouverture du Festival des Arcs en 2021, illustre votre attachement à un cinéma exigeant et audacieux, comme le disait Fabienne. Et côté série, on pourra citer Constellation de Peter Harness, qui prolonge votre exploration des frontières entre le réel et le fictionnel.
Merci.
Ariane, vous naissez à Athènes et vous passez votre enfance en Grèce. Après des études de théâtre, vous commencez votre carrière au cinéma et en 2010, avec le film Attenberg d'Atina Rachel Tsangari. Pour cette interprétation, vous remportez d'ailleurs la coupe Volpi de la meilleure actrice. Depuis, vous avez joué dans plus de 30 films et séries. Je ne peux évidemment pas tous les citer, mais j'ai envie quand même de parler d'Attenberg, d'Atina Rachel Tsangari, rôle pour lequel donc, vous recevez cette coupe Volpi de la Mostra de Venise. Voilà. Vous allez me reprendre, hein, si... oui, c'est ça. Fidelio, l'Odyssée d'Alice de Lucie Borletot, qui est un film pour lequel on a une tendresse particulière parce qu'il a reçu le prix Femme de cinéma aux Arcs l'année de sa sortie. C'était en 2014, je crois. The Lobster de Yorgos Lanthimos, Chevalier de Atina Rachel Tsangari.
Ça, je joue pas dedans.
Ça, vous jouez pas dedans. Alors ça, ok, d'accord, très bien. Bon, bah écoutez, voilà. Côté série, vous avez joué dans Black Mirror et dans Ad Vitam. Ça, c'est bon.
Oui.
Oui, c'était un petit oui, mais ça va. On va revenir dessus. En 2019, vous passez pour la première fois derrière la caméra pour votre premier court-métrage Olla. Et cette année, vous réalisez à nouveau un long-métrage, cette fois le film September and July, qui a été sélectionné dans la section Un certain regard au Festival de Cannes et aussi sélectionné en section auteur au Festival des Arcs cette année. Et votre film sortira en salle le 19 février prochain, c'est ça. On va avoir à peu près 40 minutes d'échange entre nous, mais surtout entre vous. Le public, vous aurez l'occasion de poser des questions à la fin. Et donc, merci à toutes et tous d'être là. Et c'est parti pour notre rencontre.
Merci. Merci.
La première question est assez basique. J'ai envie de vous demander à quel moment est-ce que vous vous êtes dit que vous aviez envie de travailler dans le secteur du cinéma? Est-ce que ça a été un déclic? Je sais que vous avez toutes les deux fait des études de théâtre. Est-ce que les choses se sont faites naturellement ou voilà, un petit peu nous raconter comment les choses se sont lancées?
How it started. Well, I did a film when I was very young, but I was like in the crowd, very small part when I was 7. But that kind of opened my mind and my heart for this world of cinema, and it became a communication out of my bubble of loneliness. And from that point, from the age of 7, it's the only communication it's my favorite communication. And then I did some TV series when I was 16, but then I started theater. And I think the very first discovery of that it's a communication, that I'm not alone, that it's about being together and being connected. I think that's what's been driving me through from the age of 7, actually, and still today. What about you?
But was it your desire at 7? Or how come you end up on a set at 7?
So I lived in a small village in Iceland, and my mom was doing kind of drama with young adults with Down syndrome, and my stepfather was kind of training them with horses in this village. There was like a community for where people with Down syndrome would live full time, and my family was caretakers. And then one of the boys got a role in a film. So his name was Haukur. He got a role, and my family just came along. So he was the way in, and so I kind of just slided into it.
Nice. For me, I think it's quite different because I started doing ballet when I was 6, and until I was 16, I was sure that I was gonna become a dancer. I was gonna be a dancer. So I didn't grow up having a connection to theater or cinema. I actually, when I was, I think, 4 or 5 years old, my parents were teachers in a French school in Greece, and they had a theater play, and they asked me to play Astyanax, who was supposed to be dead. So just lying down, being dead with like ketchup on me. And I freaked out because I couldn't understand that it was fiction. And I thought they were gonna kill me.
How old were you?
4.
Yeah, oh.
And so I couldn't do it. And then my sister did it, and she was only 1 year older than me. And I watched the show, and I freaked out because I thought she was dead. So I had, I think, a long way to understand the concept of fiction, I guess. So yeah, kind of stage was a bit frightening, I guess, when I was a little girl. But I started to do dance and was really into it, and never thought I would do cinema or something that would imply words, really. Until I stopped dancing, because I kind of freak out with the you know what ballet asks a teenage girl to be or become is quite dangerous, I think. And I started to do theater at school, and I realized that was a way of communication, as you said before. So it kind of arrived, when I was 16, that I thought, I could actually communicate also with this way. And but then I rejected totally the idea of doing cinema. It was only stage and live performance, and more like even.
No, same. I had like for many years I thought that cinema was fake. That like theater was the most honest. Yeah. So I did theater for 10 years because my second experience when I was 16 was sort of like a soap opera, and it was terrible. And I was like, I want to be real. I want to be honest. So it took me like a route to go into, to start to see films and realize that there's a very specific and beautiful, vulnerable truth in films. But it was like a...
But it's hard to find. I think we also have, I guess, this impression, at least that's how I perceive it. I was thinking that as a woman, especially, making films is being part of a glamorous world that I don't care about. So I really thought that maybe if I was a man, I would have think differently, to be honest. I don't know. But it was like being an actress had all this weight of covers of magazine and all this shit, which
yeah, but
I
also
really
to
didn't
be
like.
beautiful. I mean, the
Also,
roles
yeah.
that was offered, and like a lot of, I mean, the role models I grew up with was men. Like all the the actors I watched over and over, like Al Pacino and Dog Day Afternoon, and Robert De Niro, and they were all men. Like, and there was a few women that I was like holding on to for dear life, but it was men. So it kind of makes sense that it felt like very limiting for us both to enter that world.
And I think if I didn't met with Athina Tsangari, with whom I did my first film with, I don't think I would have ever done cinema. I really needed and I started late. I did my first film when I was 26, which is quite late if you think about it now. And I think I realized that it was interesting for me because she had a vision that I could connect with. And it was pretty close to what I was trying to do also in theater. So I understood that language. But after that, I thought that doesn't mean that I'm going to keep doing cinema. I was really confused about what it can be for me. Took a long time, and still now I'm not sure I want to do cinema as an actor. Yeah, it's bizarre, and it's a long process. And yeah, I think it's healthy.
But has it to do? Is it a certain amount of fear in it as well? Yeah, because that's the thing I'm like still struggling with, like the fear of not knowing, and the more I dig down and the deeper I go into myself, the less I know. And every time I'm starting a movie now, I was like, I really don't know anything. And it's like, just like I thought I knew a little bit when I was younger. So it's also like, I think the more we are aware, the less we know, sort of. And it becomes also, so the choices becomes more important, I guess, of what we say yes to, what we participate in, where we put our hearts, where we put our minds.
Yeah, and I guess also seeing all your career, it also completely depends on who we work with. As actors, you're also here to offer your voice to somebody else's vision. And sometimes this is beautiful and creative, sometimes it's not. Yeah. We have to admit that as well. So it also questions the reason why we do that sometimes.
Yeah, many arguments later.
I'm not saying that for us to talk about the bad experiences, but they're also part of any actress's careers. It's part of it. Yeah.
But also for a very long time, it was about being chosen by men, right? There was male directors, male producers. It was a whole committee of men choosing women. So we always had to play the game of, okay, this is what they want, and this is what I know would be best. And how do you balance what you know and what they think they want? And how can you infiltrate the system?
You're right. Yeah.
J'ai une question là-dessus, justement, parce que vous avez toutes les deux, c'est le sujet des représentations finalement, vous avez toutes les deux incarné des rôles extrêmement divers, vous avez incarné des femmes parfois brisées, parfois combatives, souvent ambivalentes. Est-ce que vous avez le sentiment, par les rôles justement que vous avez joués, vous avez offert de nouvelles perspectives en fait, d'identification ? Donc ça, c'est la première chose. Et la deuxième chose, c'est est-ce que vous avez le sentiment qu'il y a encore des histoires non écrites et des visages manquants, d'une certaine manière ?
Yeah. Yeah, about the characters, I think it's true. I think I can see that in your career as well, that we are, of course, and every actress is the same. We're searching for interesting character to portray. And we know that women are actually complex. It's not, you know, just a vision of or fantasy of men's projection. So every actress is trying to find characters where she can actually develop something that can resemble to our experience, which means complex and deep and painful, but or joyful. But it's those roles exist, but definitely because, as you said before, cinema has been made and created and really mainly by men. We need definitely more voices of women in that, and also we need diversity. And when I say that, it's also about showing different body types, showing different exactly what actually is being a woman in this world. It's not being just a skinny white woman. It's way more large than that. So yeah, I mean, I and we all, I think, miss representations that are just completely invisibilized. So there is a long way to go, I think, for us to feel that, yeah, we are actually trying to portray something as complex as the world is. We're far away from that, because I think we still carry, and even as women directors and writers, we still carry men fantasy in cinema.
100%. And I mean, when I started, I didn't see myself as a girl, weirdly enough. Like, my eyes on myself was just me, Noomi, you know. And then I started to realize, like, oh, actually, they see me as a girl, and I guess I need to behave like a girl. And then it was kind of a heartbreak to be like, oh, yeah, okay, so I'm actually, everyone is putting me into this box of being a girl, and I'm supposed, and I have male eyes on me, and there's a lot of, like, sexual energy, and it was quite overwhelming for me, because I grew up quite protected in a way on the countryside, like very detached from everything and just out playing with animals. So when I was like kind of started to realize, like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be, and this is what it is to be a girl, and later on a woman, it's something that I never really identified as a girl or a woman. I was just me. And then slowly, like, I've been trying to find my way in the world and protect that the first original feeling about myself that is neither, I mean, yes, in my body, physically I'm a woman, but in my mind, in my heart, I go between, like, I feel like, you know, some days I feel way more masculine inside, and, you know, and I don't know, it's not about being, like, fluid in my sexuality, but in my mind and my heart, I never really put myself in the box. So I've been trying also, it was like, strange to see that roles for a very long time was, you know, a certain because I feel like it's way wider than just talking about, as you say, like the color of your skin or what sexuality you are, or boy, girl. Like, for me, it's like we're just humans, and stories should be about humans. And I watched your film last night that you directed, September Says, which is absolutely brilliant, and it's two young sisters, and they are girls, but I just felt that they were humans playing sort of a deadly game, and a mother who's a lost human as well. And I didn't really think about what sex they were. It was really like, in the end of the movie, I was like, I've been watching three souls being really lost and trying to find their way. And because they were never sexualized. And also the way the young actresses moved in front of your lens, and in your environment you created for them, they felt so free, and it had a huge impact on me.
No, thank you. I'm really touched that you say that, because I really care about that, and if this can translate to you as an audience, seeing that, especially when we talk about teenage girl right now in France, we're trying to look at our own cinema and how it has sexualized young girls in the 80s, 90s, 2000. It has been like almost a topic itself, sexualizing young girls. And trying to talk about desire and sexuality when it's, teenage girls, because that's what they are. It was really important for me to try to portray that differently, not having to put, as you said, like on top of them what femininity is or how they should behave. Yeah. We've been just trying and working with these actresses, and they are amazing, was only to get rid of all these little layers.
Exactly.
And to find just the core of what it is, being human, like you said, but also redefining what is femininity. Does that mean that, yeah, I should laugh at a stupid joke that a man is saying just for him to like me? Should I put makeup on or not? That's my, all those questions we have to go through them again, and especially when you take the responsibility to tell a story, so to give representation to the audience. I think it's a huge responsibility as directors and as actors. We have that. Yeah. We create images, and images have a huge impact in the world. We know that. So I'm just trying to...
Also the way you shot the sex scenes, for example, it was so... Because I had a huge issue for many, many years how sex scenes were shot, even by female directors, because it was always kind of from the same angle of, how men has been portraying it and how we've been seen, and kind of always I felt sort of used or uncomfortable. And you don't look at the faces, you start to look at an uncomfortable body. And here, like, my full attention was on both the mother, Sheila, and the daughter, like one of the sisters in the beach scene, like how that I could stay present as a viewer, because it never made me slip out of the scene. It was still a scene. It didn't become a sexual candy, a little sweet.
Yeah, we do feel that sometimes. I'm sure you've read those, those scripts where you suddenly read like and now they're making love.
Yeah, you're like, okay, why?
Why out of the blue? You don't know how. Yeah. All this huge fantasy and mystery that is around sexuality suddenly in this.
My worst was with a director that was like, all of a sudden my character was having a sex scene with her female assistant, and I was like, but why and when? And he's like, no, it's a dream. I was like, whose dream? Like, where did this dream come from? Like, so out of order, and it was so clearly to kind of spice up the film, and I just refused to do it, and it became a big fight.
But it's great that you are able to. It's very hard, especially if you start and you're a young actress, it's very hard to say no to a director telling you, oh, it was not written, but can you please get rid of your top, and I just want to do this scene topless. Yeah. And you go like, fuck. Yeah. And yeah, it has happened to many of us actresses, I think. And I think one of the things that you have to learn as an actor is learning how to say no, which is a tough one.
Yeah, but it's the same way for the male audience or young boys today. That it's like in a way it's the same trap of women and men being portrayed from a circle stereotype on cinema, like on screen. My son, I've been having numerous conversations with my son throughout the years that he gets so uncomfortable that girls are always sexualized. And when he was like 13, 14, he was like, with Instagram, he was like, I don't want to look at my classmates' Instagrams because it makes me so uncomfortable that they are trying to be sexy for someone out there. So it's interesting because it took me a long time to not feel like a crybaby when I was starting to say like, yeah, but me as a woman or me as a girl, I feel uncomfortable with this, or this is how it's like, we're humans and I want to be seen as a human. But then when you start to widen like your gaze and your perspective, we're all trapped in the stereotypes. And like the first step is to start to acknowledge and see it and admit it, without being a party pooper.
Yeah, that's one of the things when you talk about those things, when you openly say that you're a feminist. Yeah, the backlash is usually, or you're prude, or you are, politically correct, or whatever term they use, which is just trying to talk about your own desire as a person and stopping being under the weight of a projection of a dominant. Yeah. That's what we're talking about. So it's actually the difference. It's of restraining yourself. It's trying to find freedom in it. So it doesn't mean that, I think sex scenes can be interesting, and I'm not saying that cinema should get rid of them. We just have to learn how to talk about sex, and I think male directors have been very lazy about it because they've been only using their fantasy. It's the same for nudity. I'm not, again, we are not saying that nudity is not interesting, but nudity doesn't mean sexualization.
Nudity is extremely interesting
Yeah.
if it has a purpose, and if it makes sense for the story and for the character. But a lot of times we're so overfed with unnecessary nudity and unnecessary sex scenes, and they're so uncomfortable and weird, because most people are not. I mean, it's very rare that, at least what I know of, that actors would have sex for real. So everyone knows that it's a construction. So if it's a construction with no purpose, it's like double fake.
Yeah. I think it's just a matter of asking or trying to think things that have been not questioned for so many years. Yeah. That's what we are asking for. It's just, let's think about how come the woman is always lying down on her back.
But also to approach it with what you just said, with curiosity. How come? Yeah. Because if you approach and question those things with anger and rage, people will turn against you, and they don't want to hear it. They don't want to open the conversation. But if you can, exactly what you say, like, how come? Then all of a sudden, you will also open up for a conversation about it, which is the first step, I think.
Alors, on va maintenant passer sur la façon dont vous préparez vos rôles. Et les corps ont une importance très particulière. Vous avez une manière toutes les deux de les engager et de les mettre en mouvement de manière très particulière. Est-ce que vous pouvez échanger toutes les deux sur la façon dont vous vous préparez en général, même si j'imagine bien qu'en fonction du scénario, les préparations ne sont pas les mêmes?
It's very different every time. If my character needs to know something that I don't know, any special skills, it might be horse riding, it might be fighting with knives, like in Sherlock Holmes, for example, or riding a motorcycle. Then I need to then there's a certain physical preparation that will take a certain amount of time, and you're like, okay, I will need 3-4 months to learn how to ride a motorcycle. So sometimes there's a very clear physical preparation period, which I like because it gives you time. It just you win time, basically. And you will get to start earlier and get your whole system and your whole being turned into the character. And I'm still struggling. I'm not lazy, I'm hyperactive, but I have a problem sometimes with concentration because I have so many things going on in my head. So to do internal preparation requires a certain really hard discipline from me, to sit and read books and to do the preparation when I'm just learning about a period or a specific topic. The physical preparation just forces me and takes over my being. So it's been helping me, especially when I was younger, just to be tossed in, and then you have to do it because you are on a schedule that is physical.
I completely relate to that. I enjoy parts where I have to learn something because I know how to prepare for that. And yeah, as you said, it just puts your all body and soul into the character. So that's the best way. And so yeah, I kind of try to translate that into something that would be a bit more, more, I don't know, less physical role, a bit more talkative, and where I don't have to learn anything. I'm trying to translate it to find something, a trick physical that I would have to learn. Or sometimes if it's in a different language than mine, this is always a great tool for me, trying to work on the language, even if I keep my accent, to consider language as a muscle and to practice it as it would be learning how to fight, kind of. So I'm always trying to find something there that I need something concrete. Yeah. And I think from what you said,
but a lot of times you invent the concrete, right? Because a lot of times you get offered a role, and there's no one is asking you to do all these things. And then I come with a list of things I want to learn to do this. I need a coach for this. I need to start training this. And they're like, oh wow, she's so serious. I was like, no, I'm just trying to do my work.
Yeah, it helps. It's not being lazy. It gives you something concrete to work on. Instead of, I'm not crazy about, for example, building the backstories and things like that. For me, are less useful than learning how to play piano. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I guess it also has to do with my background as a dancer. It's easier for me to translate it to something concrete. Yeah.
I mean, I started doing martial arts like judo and kung fu and Thai boxing quite young. And that was always like, that was anchor for me and a way to stay sane. So I think that's been something I always hold on to. I wrapped a movie in India, in Calcutta, a couple of weeks ago, and I came back to London and I felt so lost. And I was just like, I don't know what this project, this character, like I felt like I've been ripped out of my roots and was trying to find some kind of ground and my way back to some kind of normality, and to find my way back into my life is through physicality, to work out, to go to the gym every day, to stretch, to sweat, to just like force myself to follow a routine that is physical, because then it's less head and more body.
Vous parliez du lien au cinéaste sur les scènes d'intimité, et là sur la façon dont vous préparez les rôles. J'aimerais vous demander comment vous abordez la direction en général, ce qui vous fait le plus de bien sur un plateau, la façon dont vous aimez le plus travailler avec un cinéaste, et du coup, par rebond, vous en tant qu'actrice, quand vous avez commencé à réaliser, comment vous avez abordé la direction justement, et quelle place vous avez laissé à la liberté pour un acteur ou à des choses précises que vous demandiez sur le plateau.
You mean sex scenes or like
Ah non,
any
justement, ça on en a parlé, là c'est vraiment sur la direction en général, sur le lien au cinéaste.
Yeah, I think it's I mean, what do you say? I think it's always about mutual like respect and communication, and like a lot of times it's actually more my co-star that we have like what is this like, to really deep dive into what are we investigating, what is the main subject, where do we need to go in ourselves and find and build together, build a situation when we are safe, where it's allowed to try and be stupid and make mistakes and just see where it takes us without protection. So it's a combination, I would say, the director and the actors together to build and to create a safe space. And that can be in different ways. And it's every situation will kind of require its own little recipe.
It's true. I think it's different on every project with every director. But there's something for sure that I appreciate, and maybe that's also why I've been working quite a lot with women directors. This sense of, you know, collective work, and also maybe because same for you as in theater, we attempt to, and I had a collective, you know, this thing of everybody has a saying, and I mean, cinema is one of the most collective form of art, and I really love feeling that as an actor, that I'm part of an adventure with other people, and we're all facing the same direction, and there is something very romantic about that, and I need to feel that the directors are sharing their vision with me in a way for us and for me to be generous enough. If I feel manipulated, I'm gonna be terrible.
Exactly, because then you will have your protection up and there will be no flow.
Yeah. So when you talk about, you know, this safe environment, it's really about, I think, also that feeling that you are.
But that's also part of the old ways, I think, you know, the manipulation and almost this kind of romantic, a bit seductive, like male director that is manipulating his actors and, you know, playing games with them and playing them against each other, and out of the uncertainty and the insecurity, to break an actor comes magic. It's sort of like an old beliefs, right? That we're still like trying to heal the scars from and say like, no, we're actually all in this on equal, respectful ground.
Yeah, it's still a thing in France, because a few days ago, the Cinémathèque Française was supposed to show the Last Tango in Paris, where we have a scene of where we see Maria Schneider being exactly abused the way you're describing it. So she didn't knew about it. She got butter in between her, in her butt, and all of that was shot in the film, and it's still being shown in cinemas without any contextualization
and
celebrated. So it's, but they finally decided not to play it because we were very loud about it. But it's
But it's also, you know, breaking up old and like kind of bringing down old heroes.
definitely.
To allow ourselves to be brave enough to say, you know what? I mean, we have that in Sweden too. Like one of our biggest, like Ingmar Bergman, was terrible to his actors, terrible to his wives. Today, he would not be, you know, allowed to work, I think. And he's still like, you know, one of the greatest. And,
Right.
you know, there's very little conversation about how he treated his actors and how he was as a person. So it's also about, you know, challenging and looking at the past and saying, maybe they did great things, but like, to what cost?
Exactly. And it's true that it was part of my desire as a director as well. It was for me to find a way to collaborate. You have, and I guess I'm also feeling this way because I'm a woman and I feel like an imposter all the time. I'm like so grateful that I get to make my first feature films. There's a sense of really thanking everyone to come in the morning and to be on your set and being like, yeah, I'm here to tell your story, which is very generous, and to acknowledge that and to have the best time you can. I mean, this is an amazing job we're doing, creating stories with other people, being allowed to do that. And I can't imagine it with manipulation, fear, pain. That would be a disaster for me if I would produce that. It's exactly, I'm doing cinema to avoid that pain in the real world. So I'm really not trying to make a set where I would finally explore my own cruelty on people.
I mean, it's the same if you work. I work with kids several times. Now in Constellation, the series I did for Apple was like one of like the most kind of evident proofs of. We did like 8 episodes, and I worked with 2 young twins. They were 11 years old, and they were incredible. And from the very first day, I said to them, like, we're a team, and you know, come to me, whatever it is, we can go away. We can always say we need 15 minutes, we need 5 minutes. Let's go and rehearse this, just us. And if you need to change something, just do it. Find your own words, and that you can't be wrong. There's no right, there's no wrong. And just allow whatever happens will happen, and I'm in it with you. And the more they relax, the more they would just kind of could be themselves, the better and the more fluid and the more like authentic their acting became. So it's really like, you know, and I was like, this is the same for adult actors and for any human. The safer you are, the more you feel like you are seen and heard and it's okay to be you, the better version of yourself would you be.
But do you think you did that because the director wouldn't know how to say that to those young actors?
Yeah, she did. It was a female director for the first block, Michelle McLaren, who I love and respect, and she's incredible. But also, I have a strong energy. So if I come in on set, then I'm the lead of the show, and I'm just doing my thing, and then the kids come in, and I'm just acting with them, not really interacting. They were quite intimidated by me in the beginning. So it was really, I felt like, you know, I kind of share this, the chair with the director a bit. You know, I need to make an environment for them so they feel safe around me as well, and that everything is allowed.
Yeah, you're right. But I think there's also something that most directors don't know, and it's, you know, it's okay not to know that, but how it feels to act is also knowing how vulnerable we can be, and it's very hard to understand it if you haven't experienced it. Yeah. So it's also something I think is interesting and important to share with directors who have never
definitely
acted in front
and
of
I think
a
a lot of
camera.
actors won't say it because they don't want to be weak. So if like you know, in the end of the day, and I feel so scared. Like I really like, you know, this day was hard. And I don't know, you know, what I did and how it will come out, and it's in your hands. But to really show vulnerability is hard.
J'ai envie de revenir sur vos carrières et sur le fait que vous avez quand même un point commun qui est le rapport à l'international. Noomi, vous avez à la fois joué en Europe et aux États-Unis, dans des très grosses productions et dans plutôt du cinéma d'auteur. Ariane, c'est un peu la même chose pour vous. Vous avez aussi vraiment évolué entre différents pays. Vous avez joué pour différents réalisateurs et dans différents pays. Est-ce que c'est quelque chose qui vient en fait influencer votre jeu et qui, d'une certaine manière, vous rapproche toutes les deux?
Wow, I mean, I don't actually care so much where the film is being made and who it's, if it's a big American production or a small European indie. The work I'm trying to do is to be honest and dig into my own truth and translate that into the role. And sometimes it's more scary because, you know, some sets is like 500 people in the team, and you just feel like, oh God, I feel like an animal here in a cage. So it's like requires more work to break out of your own fears. But I feel like, I mean, we're both, I guess I've been very blessed, and I've been able to do both European indie art house films and bigger productions in the US or in Europe. And I think, you know, when I started, it was more divided. I have a sense that the film industry is melting together more and more. I think the streamers have really done that, in original language and the accents. Like in the beginning when I started, it was like, yeah, can you do a Boston accent? Can you do a New York accent? Can you do, like, you know, and now it's like, you know, what, you just keep you. Because I think it's like, so it is slowly changing. And I think it was, would you agree with me that, you know, 15 years ago, it was more divided and it was like American and European. Now it's, I feel like a lot of American directors are coming here and wants to work in Europe, and a lot of Europeans are kind of taking over there. So,
yeah, you're right. I think there's also this acknowledgement that there are foreign actors and people everywhere. So we have accents everywhere. So it's being now included in cinema, which is great. And as you said before, I'm the same. I don't care at all about, in general, nationality and nation and where a project comes from. It's always a challenge working in another language, but as I said before, I see it as an opportunity to work on something concrete. And I don't know, I've been blessed too in a way, because people in France, I'm French, but people in France think I'm Greek, which is great, and in Greece, I'm French. And in the rest, I'm like, Eastern Europe, something they don't know, which is brilliant, because yeah.
Eastern Europe something. Yeah. I've gotten that too.
Yeah, it's just this a bit exotic, we don't know. Yeah. And then I play along with that. I don't care, because I don't, revendicate being of one culture or something.
I think it's really like, I mean, being from two countries, I'm Spanish, Swedish, but I grew up between Sweden and Iceland. And nobody really knows where I'm from. And I'm just always like, yeah, I'm good with that. Because we can move. And also as a child, when you are from, from one place and then you live somewhere else, I think you will start to identify it just like as a, universal world citizen, more than someone who's very provincial and, connected to a country and a language. But also I think, more now than ever, I have this passionate feeling, and I feel like there's a certain desperation that is needed, and urgency to protect art house cinema and to really fight for it and make conscious choices. Because a lot of because of where we are in the industry, and people not going to the theaters and streamers, and there's so much of what we do is like fast food and very quick decisions, very quick productions. So like festivals like this one, I'm so happy to be here, because it's really about like film lovers, and everyone here cares about it and pays attention and have a certain bravery, both the audience and you guys behind, and to sit here with you feels like a conscious decision to really be here and to speak about something that is needed more than ever.
Il y a quelques années, on a reçu Barbara Soukova dans le cadre de ce festival, qui nous avait partagé quelque chose que j'ai trouvé très beau. C'est qu'un moment important de sa vie d'actrice, de sa carrière, c'était le moment où elle a saisi la puissance narrative et émotionnelle d'un silence ou juste d'un geste. Alors j'aimerais savoir, vous, dans votre expérience d'actrice, à quel moment vous avez vraiment pris conscience de ça? Est-ce qu'il y a une anecdote particulière où vous vous êtes vraiment rendu compte de la puissance d'un geste ou d'un silence?
Simplicity. I think when you don't know what you're doing, you speak too much, you add too many things to cover up that you don't know.
Yeah, I think I learned that on my first film, Attenbergen, because everything was very choreographed, and it had a rhythm, and it was closer to dance than acting, I guess, which is a language I understand better. So it was full of timing and even movements of the eyes, realizing that everything is an information. is a knowledge that, yeah, you carry during all your career, and then you realize when you watch your own work, oh, I fucked up, this is way too much, or, you know, because you don't even realize how expressive you can be sometimes, and you'll never learn that.
My very first director said, I did a short film when I was 15, he was like, does someone have any tape? Can we tape down her eyebrows? Because I was like using my eyebrows so much. He's like, it looks horrible, like you're a total clown. And I was like, I was completely not aware of it. Yeah. But also with the silence, like when you're silent, you also listen, and you will watch and take in your co-star. Because if you speak all the time and you're doing things all the time, you're in your own universe, like me, which is the less interesting part.
J'ai une dernière question avant qu'on fasse passer le micro dans la salle. Je voulais vous demander si vous aviez l'une et l'autre une question à poser à l'autre.
Well, I'm very curious because I've seen you as an actress, and I admired you for years, and I think your choices and your bravery is just extraordinary. But now you enter the field of directing, and as I said, you know, I was very taken by your film. Do you feel like that is an era and a field that you are more drawn to? What did it do with you as an actor to step into that field and to actually step behind and be a watcher?
It's exactly what you're saying. That's why I never thought of acting in my own film, for example. Taking the position of the watcher was something that I was craving to do for so long, and it took me time to find the courage, I guess. So I love it, and I want to continue doing that for sure. But I love acting too, so I don't want to choose, and I don't think I have to. Or I'm saying that to myself. But I think it's an amazing luxury to be able to watch and being watched, and to, if possible, choose by whom and with whom. It's brilliant. So I think I have more stories to tell, and I want to keep doing it. And that's kind of the question I wanted to ask you. Did you ever I know you produced things, but do you ever had the need or the desire to tell your own story? Your own, I mean, to create a story?
Yeah. I'm getting closer to it. I've been asked to direct a few times, strangely enough. I don't know why. Like, you know, people just like, I've gotten scripts sent to me, it's like, would you be interested in directing? And I was like, I'm not there. But now I'm getting closer. And I would definitely not act in my own film. So the one thing I'm, you know, certain of that I would start with becoming a watcher, because I'm so intrigued by actors. And a lot of times my best takes is when the camera is on you. And I'm just completely not aware of anything and just being in the scene. And then after, like, you know, coming, I was like, wow, I'm like so taken by by the other actor. And I was like, I wish the camera was on me now, because I know it was good. So, but I'm craving and longing to actually step out a little bit and to be on the other side.
I can't wait to see that.
Thank you.
On va maintenant passer le micro dans la salle. Je vous laisse lever la main pour les personnes qui ont des questions. Allez. Alors moi, je peux pas... J'ai un...
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so I have too many questions, but if I had to choose one, it's like you talked about preparation in your scenes, and I know that sometimes when you air some movies, you don't film the scenes in the right order. And do you find it sometimes hard to get into the character when the character had lived things you didn't even film, or not?
Yes, it's awful. I mean, sometimes you start with the end. In Constellation, the series I did for Apple, we shot, so it's 8 episodes, and second week of filming, we were shooting loads of scenes from episode 7 in a burning house, which is like, it's a long journey to get to a place. And then you have to imagine and prep in a complete different way, but you're also making something up. And then later on, when we got to, this was in June, and in January, we were shooting the other scenes around that, the outside and the exterior. And then I was like, okay, can I watch what we did in June? And I was like, oh no, I wish I would not have done that choice. But then you locked yourself into a corner. But it's just, you know, it's sometimes needed, I guess. But it's hard. I don't prefer that.
I agree totally. I had to start on a big action film that I've done, Assassin's Creed. I had the first day of shooting was my death. And it's not like they don't have money, you know, to make it differently anyway. I was upset, but I did it. It just, I think it's, and they know it's doable. It just put us in a very insecure position because you can only doubt for the rest of the shooting after that. And it's not that pleasant, but I mean, that's part also of a leap of faith that you have to trust and trust, you know, the editor and the director you work with and the script, you know, script supervisor is actually having all these pieces together in mind. So it's also a matter of trusting the people you work with, but it's scary, yeah.
Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions dans la salle? So we are very close to the end of this conversation. I wanted to ask you, I mean, is there an issue that we haven't talked yet during this talk and that you would like, I mean, to speak about? I mean, is there something you didn't say and that you would like to say, you know, to conclude this conversation? Wow, difficult question. Something, I mean, some new projects you've got, or, you know, an important, I mean, opinion you've got, or I don't know.
It's a big question. Do you have any?
It's just that, no, I'm just thinking out loud, but it's having in mind and related to what you asked me about directing and acting. I know that now I'm going to act again. I've stopped for a little bit to make my film. So this journey of finding or not finding what's your position or a place in the industry and then in the world is a long thing and long process, which I kind of think is also beautiful. So I just wanted to say that. It's kind of nice to feel lost as well. And I think that's something we have to embrace as artists in general. So weirdly, and we started to talk about that at the beginning, that fear is part of it. Completely. I'm still scared of acting. I'm still scared of directing. And I'm loving it, which is contradictory somehow. But it's one of the moteur, the engine that kind of keeps me going. And I think I can see that in you too.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. Yes. Also, one last thing. I think what we started speaking about, to kind of wrap it up a bit, like with beauty and being a woman or being a girl, and like this whole idea of what we are supposed to be. I think aging is one of the most beautiful things I experienced in life. I don't want to go back to anything. I don't want to look like I did like 10, 15, 20 years ago. Or like I find it something that needs to and should be protected, and that the conversation should be held early in young women's lives, like you, and however you will turn into, like the older you get, if it's you and if you live your life, that should show in your face and your body. And I find it devastating that so many young actors and people in our industry think that they need to do fixing and tricksing and changing their bodies, that they're not enough. And also to just go back to your film, these two young actresses, they were so beautiful, and they're so, it's something quite crispy about their energy. And I felt that they were really free, and they felt beautiful, and they're not perfect. But also in the same time, obviously, perfection does not exist. But I think in a different setting, they could have been broken, and you know, a director and a team could have said to him, "Go on a diet before the movie, just lose a couple of kilos," or like all these things. That is like, and I feel like it's time to really start to talk about like that beauty is not like how you look. Beauty is completely what you are and how you move in the world, and like how like you by yourself is unique. There's no one like you. So all your cracks and all your imperfections is actually your strength.
Bravo. Je pense que c'est vraiment la meilleure manière de conclure cette discussion. On a organisé cette rencontre, et les masterclass du Lab ont vraiment pour objet de mettre en avant des rôles modèles au féminin. Je crois que vous êtes vraiment l'incarnation de ça, et cette discussion qui était tellement fluide et tellement directe était un merveilleux moment pour nous. Donc merci beaucoup. Merci à vous pour votre attention, et on va continuer à suivre vos films et vos actions. Merci beaucoup. Merci.